What's up, Raptors fans? Welcome to the Warriors Report. For today's video, I will be discussing who is to blame for the Raptors' struggles this season. Now, we know Aaron Baines has been a huge letdown for us this season, and there's definitely been some other contributing factors, such as being in Tampa and when they got hit with those COVID protocols as well. But none of those factors are some of the reasons I believe the Raptors struggle. So I'm going to give my explanation in just a second here. But I need you to do me a little favor. Give this video a thumbs up as it helps reach more Raptors and basketball fans across YouTube. And if you could hit that subscribe button as well, it really helps this channel grow. We're almost at 900 subscribers. You get a lot of Raptors content on here, including in-depth analysis, latest rumors, and other news as well. So with that being said, let's get into today's video. Now, the real reason I believe the Raptors really struggled this season was because of defined roles, and it may confuse some of you here, but let me explain myself here. So we see Pascal Siakam. He knew what his role was. He was the main go-to scorer on our team. But what about the other guys on our team? Now, we know Kyle Lowry has been absolutely amazing for the Raptors throughout his career, but there's no denying the fact that he's definitely aged quite a bit, and he's shown a lot of signs this season of slowing down. And Fred VanVleet has also taken next steps to his game. We saw him have that game against the Orlando Magic where he scored 54 points. And the issue I believe here is because no one knows who that second or third option is offensively. And that is why I believe that contributed to Fred VanVleet having a lot of inconsistent games this season. We would see him score 20, 25 points in one game, and the next game we'd see him score 10 or 12 points. And that was because there weren't enough shots to go around. There's only one ball, and it doesn't help when everyone wants to shoot. And the roles on this team were not defined. Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry have played together in the past. And last season they did great, but that was also because Kyle Lowry was clearly the top dog. Now that's not to say they have chemistry issues. They both play great together, but it was definitely a known factor that Fred VanVleet is ready to take over that point guard position. But Nick Nurse was also in a tough position of where he couldn't just move Kyle Lowry to the bench. So outside of these two guys, I think the person who really suffered the most from this was OG Anunoby, because we know he's a really good defensive player. We know he's worked on his offensive game in the off seasons, particularly his ball handling. But the issue with that is he didn't know what his role was offensively. Is he just going to be a 3-and-D guy again this season? Is he the second option, third option, fourth option? That's where I see the inconsistency with both him and Fred VanVleet. And that's because OG Anunoby would have games where he would score 20 points. And the next game you would see him score maybe 7, 8 points. But that was also because he was not getting those shots. One game he would get 10, 15 shots. The next game he would get 5 shots, which I believe has contributed to the up and down inconsistency of OG Anunoby. But we did see him have that game and the stretch of games where he scored 20 plus points. And it wasn't a coincidence. That came when one of Kyle Lowry or Fred VanVleet were both recently out. And I believe that really helped him because he knew how many shots he would be taking. He knew his role offensively would be that second or third option. And it really showed because he was scoring a lot as well. No, so for the next slide, I do want to show you an example of a team in the past where they had talent like this, but there was no real role as to what their roles were offensively. And I do want to mention I'm not comparing our roster to their roster in that sense, just strictly speaking of defined roles. And I'm not comparing personnel either, but the team this reminds me of is that Boston Celtics team that had Kyrie Irving. Now we know Kyrie Irving is a great player, but Jason Tatum was an up and coming young player at that time, and he needed the ball to be effective. He was also really effective offensively, but he simply was not getting the shots because Kyrie Irving is very ball dominant. And this not only created issues for Jason Tatum, but also other guys like Gordon Hayward as well, who wanted the ball. And Jalen Tatum was still a really good player even a couple of seasons ago. So this is where the issues became. There was only one ball, not enough shots to go around, and also because the players didn't know their roles as well, and it really affected them as well. And we saw how the Boston Celtics performed after Kyrie Irving left. They got much better. Everyone knew their roles. And I want to also compare our roster to our championship roster. Now, I'm not saying our roster is great as that, but just strictly speaking of defined roles, when you take a look at our roster from our championship run, you look at guys like Marc Gasol, who knew what his role was. He wasn't going to demand too many shots. Was there strictly to play defense, rebound, and also pass. And also guys like Danny Green did a solid job of being a 3 and D guy. He would take about 5 to 7 shots a game. He knew what his shot was. He wasn't going to demand the ball. He was there to shoot three-pointers and play great defense. And that's what his role was. Kawhi Leonard was the top dog. He knew what he was. Kyle Lowry was a point guard, but he was also passing a lot more that season. And Pascal Siakam was sometimes our number 2 or 3 option. So when you look at defined roles, that's why it benefits the team in general because they know what they're supposed to do on the offensive and defensive end. And that's why I believe the Raptors have struggled. And it's not only this championship run as well. You compare last year's roster, like let's talk about the Lakers. We knew LeBron and AD were the main 2 guys, and they surrounded them with nice pieces who knew what their roles were, and such as Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Kevius or Caldwell Pope. Sorry, I mixed up his name, but players around them knew what their roles was, and that's why you see these last couple of teams that have won the championship. Everyone knows what their roles are, and that's where the Raptors really struggled this season. Now, I do want to talk about the bench as well because the bench has been really inconsistent as well now. Outside of Chris Boucher and Norman Powell when he was coming off the bench, we didn't know who the next couple guys were, and this really hurt the bench. And that's why I believe the Raptors struggled scoring from the bench because these 2 guys here, they were getting the most inconsistent minutes throughout the season. Some games you would see them 10, 15 minutes, and then you would not see them again for several minutes. Now, obviously, I know a lot of fans felt some sort of way about particularly Terrence Davis getting traded, but I believe that helped this team in the long run because we saw more consistent minutes for guys like DeAndre Bembry as well, who was also getting very inconsistent minutes throughout the beginning part of the season where you would see him for several games and then not see him for another 7, 8 games. And it wasn't just him, it was guys like Yuta Watanabe, Stanley Johnson as well. And also, we're getting Malachi Flynn some more minutes as well. We've opened up more um, spots and more minutes for him by trading those 2 guys away as well. And you see what a difference that makes when players know they're going to be playing consistent minutes, how many shots they're getting throughout the game. That definitely helps. We've seen our bench play a lot better. And particularly Malachi Flynn, we've seen him in the last week or 2 playing a lot better because he knows he's going to be coming off the bench. Recently, he's been starting, he's been getting a lot of minutes, so which is good because he knows what his role is. He knows he's going to be getting those minutes, and that's where I believe the Raptors really struggled. Now, before I end the video off, I do have a question for you guys. Who do you think is to blame for the Raptors' struggles this season when it comes to the roster and the defined roles? Does it fall on Masai Ujiri for not constructing the Raptors roster properly? Or does it fall on Nick Nurse for not giving guys consistent minutes and not defining players' roles? So let me know in that comment section below of who you think is to blame. And if you're still watching this video, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.